Back in 2016, one of the most discussed topics in relation to unreleased Valve content was Left 4 Dead 3. Pretty much every couple of weeks we had a new Left 4 Dead 3 leak, and now, in 2019, it has been 3 years since we've really heard anything related to the game. However, there was a time where we had textures from the game, scripts from the game, a map from the game, screenshot names from the game, and almost consistent leaks in every single Source 2 piece of content that we had seen. The very final string leak we ever saw was in mid-2017, however, that was after 6 months of silence. So what exactly happened to the game? Obviously, we shouldn't expect Valve to give an explanation as to why a completely unannounced game was silently canceled. However, anybody that follows this channel and follows the Valve community as a whole understands that this game was very much in development, and something happened in late 2016 or early 2017 that just caused everybody to stop working on it. Well, I've been doing my research for the last 2.5-3 years to be able to figure out exactly what this game was and what happened to it. And I've been able to get a good understanding of where the game's at, what the game was, and what exactly happened from many different sources around the internet, and it took a few years, so this is what I know. Left 4 Dead 3 was completely playable in late 2016. It was completely unpredictable. It was good enough for an early access release, however, Valve would not have released their own products under early access. The issue was, the team could have canceled it at any single point in time due to the divide of engines. There were a lot of people on the team that wanted to push this game as the Source 2 title to be able to finish up the engine alongside the game and then release the SDK. Up until now, there has not been one singular title to be able to really give Source 2 its purpose and direction, and they wanted to be able to make Left 4 Dead 3 that purpose. The problem was you had another half of the team that just wanted to move over to Unreal. This obviously requiring more development time, but at the time Source 2 was completely unfinished, running an almost feature-complete version of Source 1 and had just a completely lackluster PVR implementation and was just a complete bloated mess. If they were to release it on Source 2, they wouldn't be able to push it onto consoles at all. It's too bloated, at least at the time. So they wanted to be able to just port their work over to Unreal, remake anything that was needed, and have a game that is far more stable and possible to be released on other platforms. The team itself did have a few people from Turtle Rock, but mostly had new people that were new to just releasing a game at Valve. However, Valve famously doesn't plan ahead, and up until the end of development, everyone thought that any kind of marketing push or early announcement for the game was unnecessary, as they had access to one of the largest marketing machines that was on millions of PCs already. This was before Artifact, and Valve thought that if they had just released anything on Steam, it would be incredibly successful because they own the marketplace, and their name means millions. The game itself was actually slightly different than what you would expect out of a Left 4 Dead 3 game. In fact, L4D3 was just the code name, and no one really intended on releasing it as a Left 4 Dead 3 game, because that would likely cause some anger. The game was quite different. It was still a cooperative zombie shooter, however, with a lot of player choices being placed on both the character selection and branching paths on the map. It felt like a completely different game with the Left 4 Dead branding placed on top. One of the major points they wanted to push for the game was the asynchronous multiplayer between traditional PCs and virtual reality. You would be able to have people playing on the computer alongside people playing in VR in the same game, and any combination of each. The main choices between character selection very much is representative of the time. This was late 2016, early 2017, and the hero shooter was king. So you had 8 different survivors that you could pick from, 4 of which returning from Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2, and 4 of which being completely new, each of them having their own unique playstyle, kind of like classes in Team Fortress 2. This texture that leaked in the Steam VR Performance Test Bench demo shows something that was called an engineer for Left 4 Dead 3. This was one of the new survivors, and then it was shelved because they couldn't reach a decision on whether they should stick within Source 2 or Unreal. They didn't decide to just restart development in a different engine. It's done. No one's working on it. They couldn't reach an agreement, and so the entire game just fell apart due to lack of any kind of help on this version of the game. And since, there really hasn't been much in terms of quote-unquote traditional game development happening at Valve with any real development push being placed on it. There are always games being developed at Valve, but the problem is there's never enough attention being placed on it. And now we are learning that a lot of Valve's 300 employees are hardware engineers, working on things like living room boxes and brain interfacing and flexible PCBs to be able to be implanted into the human body so that digital signals can be transferred to the brain. Valve is changing. Valve is very different than what we want them to be, but Valve is still very interesting. So if you can get past the sadness of, yeah, we're probably not going to be able to play another traditional game for a very long time, we're probably going to be seeing some incredibly interesting stuff. Whether or not that stuff is good is not the point. But Left 4 Dead 3 was canceled in late 2016 or early 2017 because the team couldn't make a decision on exactly what engine they were going to continue developing, and so an almost finished game, only needing the final pass of art and voice acting, was canceled, and never to be seen again. That sucks.